Life's too short to drive boring cars. Purchasing a brand new vehicle is often a huge expense. As a matter of fact, they say it's the second largest investment in your lifetime. SUVs take it to another level because sport utility vehicles are often worth even more than most your average vehicles. So it shouldn't be a huge surprise when there's some people that say they actually regret buying that last SUV. So after a lot of research, personal experience, and talking to friends and family, and I have a list of 5 SUVs that people most regret buying. Let's get into it now. So the first SUV on my list is what we have behind us here. It's not actually an SUV, it's an SAV, sport activity vehicle instead of a sport utility vehicle, and it's the infamous BMW X6. Now back in 2008, it was breakthrough. A lot of people loved it because it was different. It had the very aggressive slope front, it had the very aggressive slope rear finishing on it, the whole roofline was lower, and it just looked like nothing else on the market. So let's take a quick look. Here we have a newer X6 parked in front of us here. Right there, you've got the beautiful headlights by BMW. And of course, you've got their newer style of grille. This is a later model X6. Great little fog lights. Beautiful bumper styling at the bottom. Of course, they've got great rims. And this one here is featured with the 35i, so that's the turbocharged 6-cylinder engine. Of course, you've got soft touch keyless there and there. And down here, you've got one exhaust tip and yet another one because we're talking the turbocharged engine often does have those fine finishing. These vehicles have really wide rubber underneath to allow for extra stability in the corners. You'll notice they've got these wonderful tail lights on a BMW, and it's the X6 as mentioned. And here we've got some great plastic molding along the sides and running boards, as well as this great little finishing accent, and a very sporty looking front nose on this with a couple of great accents on the hood. Beautiful finishing along the sides, and you'll notice two-tone mirrors, very sharp. Can't forget about the roof racks to haul all that junk to the dump. And what about the interior? BMW always has a great level of finishing and quality inside, and this one's no different. And there we have the rear finishing. This is unique to the X6, and you'll notice it has a very SUV look to it, but with a much sharper raked finish to it on the back. So why were people regretting this? Well, first of all, because it's a BMW and it's a premium model, you can expect to lose a third of the value in the first couple of years of ownership. Not only that, by the time the vehicle's 5 years old, it's worth less than half of its original value. Basically, you're underwater on your loan payments. And on top of that, this is probably your best engine that you can get in this particular vehicle. If you get the X6, the 50 series vehicles, which is the twin turbo V8 that you'd find under the hood, that is a whole host of problems. The twin turbo V8 is called the N63, oil consumption, timing chain issue, premature battery draw, and the list goes on and on. Very problematic, people start getting tired about it, and it's actually got a class action lawsuit to address those engine issues. And there's more. Part of the issue I found when I first got into these for the first time was bumping my head because you feel like it's an X5, but it's not. You'll notice the roof line is a lot sharper and it runs a little tighter here, and it's a lower height. So you find yourself banging your head as you try to get in there, or even worse, if you're trying to get in the back seat, you wind up smashing your head on there getting in every single time. And after a while, driving a vehicle that's lost its value, doesn't have the practicality that you should expect in an SUV, compounded by the additional expenses of maintenance, these vehicles are highly regrettable by most people I've spoke to. So in 2014, 3 major tragedies struck. Number 1, the Ebola virus. Number 2, the Malaysian airline crash. And number 3, the Buick Encore, as we see right here. Here we have the Buick Encore. Now overall, the reliability isn't the worst in the world. Although in 2017, there was problems with sluggish acceleration, excessive smoke, and sadly, electrics were a problem with these vehicles. Often you'd get dash lights that would start to dim out randomly, power windows that would work sometimes and other times not as much. Sadly, brakes are a problem in some cases, as well as airbags and seat belts. Lots of little nickel and dime issues. Overall, a pretty robust vehicle, but certainly had its share of issues. But look at it. You've got to drive this thing. It looks like a regular vehicle, but just squished down into horizontal proportions. As we see there in the Buick. Circle around, LED headlights, pretty standard for a lot of vehicles. LED with, of course, just a standard light bulb type illumination. Down on the side, you'll notice you've got a standard bumper arrangement, nothing too complicated. How about these different style of wheels? Almost laser cut, not bad. From a styling perspective, the mirrors look sharp with this interesting little light. How about this luggage rack here to haul materials for your next yard project? Here you have this great little overhang here, like a lot of little mini SUVs. Looks very sharp from the side. And even the taillight assembly almost resembles something that you're getting from the Cadillac lineups. The back circling around looks very basic and standard, and you've got one little chute right there. Now the side doesn't look particularly bad, and overall the vehicle does look relatively attractive. You've got soft touch there and keyless as well at the back. And the interior is fairly spacious, although it feels a little bit like sitting in a barrel. So overall, not a terrible looking vehicle, but some research I found, and people that I know who own these vehicles often walk away after a year or two thinking, you know what, I probably should have saved my money and bought something a little more substantial. Combined with some of the nickel and dime issues, just leave people very dissatisfied with the Buick Encore. And the next one on my list is this massive behemoth behind us here, and it's the Cadillac Escalade 2021. Now, it's a vehicle that weighs almost 6,000 pounds, but can you believe it? Something this magnitude can actually hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 5.5 seconds. Very impressive. Not to mention, it's got some great styling cues. Let's take a look. Love that new grille style about Cadillac here. Beautiful, bold, and aggressive. Wonderful style of headlights. I love the looks of that. And even these lights here are even more impressive. I definitely love the overall bold styling effect. The whole front end of this truck is very, very menacing, powerful, and chic. Beautiful oversized rims on a Cadillac again. And of course, you've got these great indents here. And you've got running boards all the way along. As well, along the back, you'll notice the indents around the fender wells there. And of course, more great tail lights here on this style of new Escalade. 1, 2 style of wonderfully integrated rear exhaust finishing there. And this massive crest to tell you who's the boss. Look on top, you've got some glass up top, as well as a massive roof rack there to support any kind of hauling duty you might have. Beautiful accents here. I love the style of that. And of course, look at the two-tone handles there, as well as the keyless entry right there. And gotta love that too. Look at that small little finishing, very strong and prominent. Antenna circling around, you've got this big, strong truck-like hood. That's because this vehicle is essentially built on a truck. The interior on these new Cadillacs are getting to be up there with almost anything from the lower end German levels of finishing. These vehicles are absolutely beautiful, menacing, and very much in your face. But the problem is, those door handles, sometimes you grab a hold and they rip right off. That's a problem. Poor suspension setup, because after a few short miles, you start getting rattly, poor drive quality. Transmissions have been a problem historically with almost every Cadillac and GM product in late years. Of course, these engines, time will tell, may be susceptible to some of the rocker issues that we're finding in the GM trucks today. A surprisingly little amount of foot space for the back passengers considering the size of this vehicle, and a lot of the electrics within there is actually somewhat borderline in terms of quality. So often, because people pay over $100,000 for these, they expect to have the creme de la creme, but unfortunately are disappointed with the build quality of what you'd find in a standard Silverado pickup truck. And unfortunately, the next vehicle on our list is this beauty right behind us here. Now, it's a very attractive, fun-loving little vehicle, and you can actually get it in a manual gearbox, and that's part of the reason why these are so popular. Their fun, off-roading capability, as well as, again, the stick shift offered in these vehicles make them a rare little gem. But let's take a quick look and explain why these vehicles are often regretted for the long haul. First of all, they're beautiful-looking little vehicles. There you've got the Jeep decal, and of course classic Jeep front grille. You'll notice you've got the front tow hooks to pull your buddy out of the mud. There you go, you've got the plastic rocker guards all the way along, and it extends out into your rear fender flares as well. Love the rear taillight assembly. It almost has that eyeball look like it got smashed in. That interesting look. And we have a trail hawk rated. You can actually tow some small stuff with this too, and you've got another tow hook at the back. Gotta like the looks of that style of window back here. That little stout look, very versatile. And your classic Jeep style of wheels right there. Basic little handle arrangement, and you've got keyless entry and a stout little mirror with a cute little light on there. And again, it's trail rated. Love the basic style of headlight, makes it simple and low cost in maintenance. Now there's no sunroof, but it's not needed. This is more of a utility vehicle. But what about the inside of these? Cute, spacious, stylish, and relatively robust in terms of the materials that they use will tolerate off-road duty. But sadly, there's some major problems with these vehicles. The 2.4-liter Tiger Shark engine under the hood there. There's actually a class action lawsuit for that engine because of excessive oil consumption, where customers are claiming it uses more than a quart of oil per 1,000 miles, which is way too excessive for a well-engineered and well-made modern vehicle. As well as the 9-speed ZF automatic transmission is a problem. Aggressive, hard, juddery shifts, and lacking in reliability overall. There's wiring related issues there, and overall, the vehicle lacks the durability that you would expect with your typical Jeep products when you want to go off-roading. You can also expect some coolant leaks and other general fit and finish related items that show that this vehicle often will not hold up to the tour of duty. Sadly, as fun as this vehicle is, if you have to have it, get the manual gearbox, otherwise basically stay away from it, and even more sadly, people often find themselves regretting owning this in the first place. And the next SUV on my list that's actually highly regretted by owners of these vehicles, especially once they own them for 3 or 4 years, is what we have here, this beautiful, magnificent Land Rover or Range Rover Sport. Here we go. Everybody loves a Range Rover. You see celebrities driving these all over on TV and the movies, and you can't help but say, hey, I want that. I need that. So I think I should buy that. But let's take a look before we talk about what the real deal is here. What are we looking at here? We have a Range Rover Sport, part of the Land Rover group, which unfortunately is highly regretted after purchasing. And it's not because they're not attractive, because they're absolutely beautiful vehicles. Look at that logo. How about these beautiful wheels? And of course, you've got this beautiful rocker panel down here, high gloss black all the way along. And of course, comes to the front here, you have these great headlights, beautiful LEDs. And of course, down here, you have this nice finishing on the front bumper. You'll notice these great piano gloss black there. And look at the hood. It says Range Rover. What's not to love about that? How about the mirrors? LED strips, soft touch or essentially keyless, and keyless entry again. How about the rear taillight assembly? You gotta like that. Definitely have that really intricate looking taillights in this Land Rover vehicle. But specifically the Range Rover Sport HSE. And of course, look down below. You have 1 and you have 2 tailpipes. Beautiful finishing. How about that little splitter? High gloss black as well. And of course, you gotta like the looks of that overhang and that very stout look. These vehicles grossly resemble a Ford Explorer. As you circle around, who came first, the chicken or the egg? The Ford or the Range Rover? Well, I personally think these vehicles came first and then Ford tried to copycat. That's because it's an attractive looking vehicle. You've got glass panel on top and a wonderful interior that's absolutely gorgeous. Literally, I do not think you'll find a nicer interior fit and finish anywhere in the business. And that's why people buy them. The rich and famous own them. The quality fit and finish makes you feel like a king. But unfortunately, these vehicles have their share of problems. With these vehicles, you have sudden aggressive gearbox changes. You have the rear electric brake system that sometimes hangs up and grinds. You have excess carbon blowing out of the tailpipe sometimes. Timing chains were a problem in some generations. Clunking noises from the front differential is a commonly known issue. And as a whole, everything that you do to this vehicle is extremely expensive for maintenance and repairs. And on top of that, research shows that this vehicle here is the most problematic vehicle anywhere at any time currently on the market today. On average, it sees 220 visits to the dealer out of a 100 vehicle sample in 1 year's time frame. So in other words, if you own one of these, you're almost guaranteed to have to take your vehicle into the shop in the first year's time between 2 and 3 times to fix some kind of an issue. That's really disappointing considering you pay well over $100,000 for this vehicle. And even more of a poke in the eye is that you could buy a Ford Explorer for half the money and have essentially what looks to be almost the same vehicle. The Range Rover Sport and essentially any Land Rover product today. Very unreliable, and owning one means a serious financial commitment. With all of that said, I'm sure you want to check out that video. There's a list of vehicles that won't even make it 60,000 miles. Hope to see you real soon. Catch you then. Bye-bye.